afternoon, or good morning, depending on where you are, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry, I'm losing my voice today. This is Roaming Prepper Channel. Thank you for joining me once again. Today is a little bit of a set of videos that are going to go on from the house. I'm doing a backwards look at things that have gone on in the last couple of years, different subjects, just to figure out what the hell, now that we're past them, what was going on. And there's one in particular that's really bugging me because to this point, it's caused a lot of damage and it still makes zero sense to me, but I've heard some rumors about why the situation happened. I'll be right back. I'll tell you what situation I'm talking about, and then let's talk about what I think's going on. So give me just a second after the short introduction. So, welcome back, everybody. Don't forget to like and subscribe. As always, I try to premiere my videos and I try to actually be in the videos in the chat while I'm premiering, but sometimes that doesn't happen. I'm still doing a lot of work and I got another grad school semester starting. I screwed up my registrations and I wound up with this weird gap. So, I'm doing other stuff in the meantime. Then I have a class, then I have another weird gap because they moved the schedule at the college around and I wasn't paying attention. And they didn't send out a notification, so I registered for the class. They moved the class, and I didn't know. So, oh well, life goes on. But in any case, so before I get really busy with that, I figured I'd do some of these. So, what am I talking about? What is the situation? Well, the situation, my friends, is the war in Israel, Gaza. It doesn't make sense. Tactically speaking, the Hamas attack on Israel was actually executed brilliantly. I never would have thought a third world terrorist organization would come in land, sea, air the way they did. Obviously funded, obviously someone's training them, but they executed well. Now they didn't have the same body armor, they didn't have the same gear. They're rocking old style Kalashnikovs, but they were very effective. They moved fast, they moved by surprise, they utilized cheap drones, um, uh, inflatable fast boats, rib boats, RHIB, which is a rigid hull inflatable boats, a lot of unconventional gear, and they ran a very good offensive. But once that happened and they were shooting people and all this shit, everyone knew when the IDF spins up, and they're going to spin up faster than like the US would, right? The US has ready units, but it would take a while for something as big as the US military to come up. Israel will come up in a matter of days, and when they come up, they're not going to hold that territory. That's exactly what happened, right? They, the Hamas folks went in, they attacked, and pretty much within a week's time, there was a big old battle, and now basically Israel has chased them into Gaza, killed a pile of them, and then just started flattening Palestine from one end to the other. Um, and strategically thinking that's what has to happen to get rid of Hamas. And it's sad because they're hiding amongst people and it's just all sorts of casualties. But why attack in the first place? Yeah, you hate each other. Great. Go blow up a building. Go shoot up a mall. Go. This literally was a full scale invasion from Gaza to Israel. What was the result they were expecting? When I saw that attack, I'm like, they're not going to hold that ground. Israel is going to smack the shit out of them. If they don't somehow do something like set off a nuke in Tel Aviv, Israel's going to run them over. And sure enough, that's exactly what they did. So why attack in the first place? Yeah, I know they hate each other, right? A lot of people hate each other. The Indians and Chinese don't like each other. The Pakistanis and India don't like each other. Iran doesn't like really Turkey very much because the Ottomans beat up the Iranians, but they don't just go and attack each other. Like, what the hell was the motivation here? So there are several rumors going around. There are two in specific I want to talk about today. So the first one is hydrocarbons. For those of you unfamiliar with that phrase, oil and gas. So let me share a screen real quick. And I said, okay, is this why they did this? So this is from the Natural Gas Cooperative of the Eastern Med. It's called EMGF. uh, Cyprus, Egypt, Greece, Israel, Italy, Jordan, and the Palestinian territories. So I'm going to blow that up a little bit for you. So, can you see my arrow? You cannot see my arrow. Okay, sorry guys. So we're going to move on. As you can see on the right side, don't get confused. So Cyprus is in the middle. All that red and green are actually economic zones. So let's ignore that. So basically, Turkey has an extended claim. Cyprus claims um, certain oil and gas fields. Then you have Syria's, if you go to the right, Syria's exclusive economic zone, that's EEZ, Lebanon, then Israel. Now, you notice, look at Gaza down at the lower right side. You notice how there are several little fields there, but Israel already claims them. Israel said, this is our economic zone. Because if you look at it, other than the Gaza Strip, Israel actually goes from Lebanon all the way to Egypt. Gaza's just this little itty bitty strip, and the West Bank really doesn't have a claim there because they don't have shorelines. Actually, the West Bank profits because Israel brings in gas and then they divert some to the West Bank as part of that old agreement between not Netanyahu. Oh, who is the old man? It was Arafat, Reagan, in the 80s. They made that deal, and then the fighting stopped in the West Bank. Arafat, um, it was basically Jordan, Egypt, the U.S., Israel, and the West Bank, the PLO back in the day. They made an agreement, and so they get fuel. So the West Bank's happy. If Israel gets gas and oil, West Bank gets kind of a percentage for their people, and everyone's happy. So I'm like, well, Gaza doesn't have a claim anyway. So yeah, they could be like, well, we want the offshore gas fields of Gaza. Israel already claims them, and apparently that's acknowledged by the other countries. This Eastern Med cooperative group has decided that is Israel's zone. Gaza has no claim. So Gaza started a war with a bigger country to get claims to a gas field that they don't have the infrastructure to do anything with. They don't have the expertise, and they don't have a claim. Like, it's already legally accepted that that's Israel's gas fields. So that didn't make sense. And I'm wondering, well, okay, so great. So I get the underlying hatred between the two groups, but pulling a full scale invasion like that, killing, roughly 2,000 Jews, injuring, another 10,000, only to have the IDF come and steamroll your whole country didn't make any sense. So that's strategically, tactically good move, strategically stupid, didn't make sense. Um, then the gas fields don't make sense. So is there something bigger? And this is when I started digging, and then I found something that really, really got my attention. And how valid it is, I don't know because it's a lot of speculation. But let me pull up the image here. So what you see on the left is the Suez Canal, which runs through Egypt, right? There's Cairo, Alexandria to the left. And then if you look to the right, it says Israel Canal Plan. There's the Sea of Aqaba. So if you see where the water is at the bottom, it kind of makes a V, right? And the left, it goes to the Suez Canal. The right is the Sea of Aqaba. So they're saying they want to make another canal that way because the Suez has doesn't have enough capacity. Now that's super interesting because on the one hand, would Egypt lose money or revenues because of the canal, having another canal? Possibly. So would that have motivated uh, like maybe Egypt or someone else to provoke Hamas into attacking Israel? I don't know. On the flip side, you notice the canal, that Sea of Aqaba, actually borders part of Egypt. So they would actually benefit from, so, but again, it goes to, was the plan to get a canal through there? Now this is interesting because you think about the billions, if not trillions, in any given 5 years of trade that goes through these canals. So here you notice that they do the canal the way they portray it. It goes north of the Gaza Strip. The Gaza Strip is you can see just under the word Jerusalem. There's a little Gaza Strip. It's not marked, but it's not marked with a word, but you can see the outline. So, but why not just like build it 50 miles north? That ground is pretty damn flat. It's going to take 20 years any or 10 years anyway to build it. So build it a little further to the right and just avoid Gaza completely, unless there's something else there or some other reason that they can't do that. So, given the two, other than ancient hatred and a bad decision strategically, the only other thing I could think of is the plan to possibly build a canal through Gaza and see if that possibly will create justification for a war. But that would imply if Israel wanted the canal, and so there, this I'm going to go down the rabbit trail of conspiracy here. If Israel wanted a canal and they wanted it to go through Gaza because it was easier for construction, whatever, Israel didn't attack Gaza. Gaza attacked Israel. So that would imply that someone or some entity provoked Hamas to attack Israel, knowing full well what the response would be, and that pretty much there would be no Gaza left, and it would free up the canal. So who would want to do that? Now you could say, well, Israel funds its own attack, right? Or maybe Israel allowed it to happen. We don't know. That's there's so many offshoots of that conspiracy. But could is it possible that another country or group of corporations may have said, you know what, let's fund Hamas and encourage them through our channels to go and attack Israel, knowing full well the end result is Israel's going to stomp the shit out of Gaza, and then there'll be nothing there. And we'll say, oh, we'll save the people, we'll give them work by building the canal. Are you guys kind of tracking me? It may not have been Israel or Hamas. Some other players may have provoked the entire incident with the intent of ultimately flattening the northern part of Gaza, which is exactly what happened, which is where the canal would pass. So again, a lot of interesting things. Now, just to put a reality check to the conspiracy, let's take a look at this incident that happened. And you guys remember this back in 21. The giant ship named Ever Given got stuck on the sand on March 23rd in the banks of the Suez Canal. Egypt may not have immediately realized how serious the consequences were. It was loaded with 20,000 containers, but for the next 6 days, after continuous 24 hours a day work, the Japanese owned ship was rescued and the crucial waterway was reopened. The Suez is one of the busiest routes in the world. After the closure of shipping through the Suez, it began to have a serious impact on world trade. This is because a 120-mile long canal, which connects the Red Sea to the Med, is the route for 12% of world trade. This canal is a lifeline for European trade, especially with Asia and the Middle East. Statistics released on the Lloyd's list show that hundreds of cargo ships were stuck, shutting down an average of $9.6 billion in business per day. Let's think about that. That's a hell of money. That means 330 million tons of goods was stuck per hour. The German insurance company Allianz calculated the closure of the Suez caused a loss of $6 to $10 billion in a week. As a result, world trade growth could slow zero point 0.2 to 0.4%. So this incident, this now let's look at our supply chain and our cost of goods sold and our everything else, the supply chain, the costs, inflation, all this stuff. This was one of the reasons. Now, mind you, back when this happened in 2021, we're like, well, that's stupid. Apparently, there was a windstorm, but that happens there all the time. Haboobs go through Egypt. That's where we got the word haboob from. We use it here in West Texas because we get them. That should not have been a thing to knock a big ship off the canal port route. So Was that maybe the first of the freighters that got screwed up? Because we've had one hit a bridge in Baltimore. We had another one hit one in Louisiana. We had one hit something else. We've had trains derail. Was this part of a bigger scheme? I don't know. When I started digging, the whole discussion started with why the hell would Hamas attack Israel, knowing Israel was going to kick its ass? And then all these other things came out of that. The more you dug, the more you, because I went down the gas, oil and gas, and the canal. The oil and gas didn't make sense to me, and I'm in the, I've been in the industry. I know what energy is about, and I'm like, yeah, that doesn't make sense. You just wasted a lot of lives and money. You could have just like built a port north of there and screw them, right? They can't do anything, and they had no economic claim from the organizations. So the canal made the only sense. But now I'm beginning to wonder, was all this part of an excuse to build this big project? I mean, you can lose your mind chasing these rabbits, but the point is, we really strategically thinking, why did Hamas attack Israel? Knowing full well the outcome was going to be ugly. Was it to make them look bad in front of the world? Maybe. But that ship in 2021 in the Suez, you all remember it, it got stuck sideways or got hung up in the canal. After that incident is when we started seeing a lot more weird freight ship incidents, culminating in Baltimore 2 years later. So it's just something to think about. And actually, that German insurance company, $10 billion a week. You do the math. If you shut a canal down for, you know, how long was it closed? So for a week, it was 10 billion. So if $10 billion a day goes through the Suez, and you get a percent of that, right? So maybe 1 billion in tariffs or fees, whatever. That's a shit ton of money for Israel or for someone. I always believe it, these weird things, when people get violent, it's very often, even though they say it's religion, they say it's culture, they say it's you did this to me 50 years ago, very often it boils down to power, money, or resources. This one checks off all three. Just a thought. I can't prove it, but I find it really interesting that the part of Gaza where a canal hypothetically would go through is right now a rubble zone because the Israeli Air Force turned it into ash. The people in Palestine didn't benefit, and Israel honestly lost a lot of people too. That was pretty awful. Who benefits? Maybe the insurance companies. Think about it. 2 years ago, they lost $10 billion in a week because the canal got Suez got fucked up, and they're like, we need another canal. Gaza said, no, you can't build a canal here, which wouldn't have made sense. And so, well, we'll pay this guy to pay that guy to provoke this guy to go attack Israel. Keep in mind that attack on Israel was not a last minute thing. They had practiced. They knew exactly where to go. That was at least months, if not years, in the making. Just saying, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of power. That's a lot of influence. The money creates the power, creates the influence, creates the ability to steal resources. I don't know, guys. Again, I started this when I started researching this topic. I was like, why did Hamas attack Israel? That doesn't make sense strategically. Their country's in ruins now. Everyone knew that was going to happen. And then I went down this rabbit trail. So, anyway, just something to think about. I'll leave you with that conspiracy theory. Again, it's just an opinion, but you connect the dots. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of influence. Being able to control 10%, 15% of trade gives a country an opinion in the world stage. It's bigger than just the $10 billion. Anyway, guys, that's it for this one. You guys take care out there. Think about this because this is interesting. Until next time, Godspeed. God bless. You guys be safe out there, and I will see you on the next video.